Welcome to The Explainer. We spend a lot of time thinking that freedom is something we have to get. But what if true freedom isn't about gaining more, but about letting go? It's a really powerful idea, and today we're going to dig into some ancient texts to see what it's all about.
Yeah, let's really sit with this question for a second because it turns our usual way of thinking completely on its head, right? I mean, think about it. We spend so much of our lives trying to pile things up. More stuff, more experiences, more knowledge. But what if the real key to clarity isn't about adding, but subtracting? So this brings us to a key concept from the Pali Canon, which are some of the earliest Buddhist texts. The word is Pahātabbā, and it means, quite literally, that which is to be abandoned. And get this, it's not just some friendly advice. It's treated as a core instruction for how to train your mind. The texts are actually filled with lists of things that fall under this category, things we need to let go of.
Okay, so what exactly are we supposed to abandon? I mean, are we talking about giving up your car or your favorite coffee mug? Nope. This isn't about your physical stuff. The texts are pointing at something much more subtle, the internal baggage that, let's be honest, we're all carrying around.
All right, so where do we start? Well, one of the earliest collections of these teachings points to one thing, the single, most fundamental piece of baggage we all have. And here it is, asumimano. It's often translated as the conceit I am. Now, this isn't just about being arrogant or full of yourself. It's way deeper than that. It's that gut feeling of being a solid, separate me. It's like this constant background hum that's always on, filtering everything and creating this sense of me over here and the rest of the world over there. And the texts say this is the very first thing that needs to be abandoned.
Okay, next up. The texts highlight two big issues that basically act as the fuel for all our struggles, the things that keep us stuck.
So the first one is avijja, which is basically ignorance, but not like, I don't know who the president is. It's a fundamental misperception of reality. And the second is bhavatanha, this deep, deep craving for existence. It's that thirst to just keep going, to keep becoming something. Put those two together, you've got a powerful engine for dissatisfaction. We're not seeing things clearly, and at the same time, we're desperately clinging to our own existence.
And from there, things get even more practical. The texts lay out what they call the 5 hindrances. Honestly, the best way to think about these is like static on the radio, 5 kinds of noise that just jam up your mental frequency. You've got sensual desire, ill will, that heavy, sluggish feeling, restless worry, and that nagging kind of doubt that just paralyzes you. If we want any kind of clarity, the texts are telling us this is the static we need to learn to tune out.
Okay, let's be real. This sounds like a lot of work, right? So why bother? Why go through all the trouble of abandoning these habits that are so deeply ingrained in us? What's the end game here? Well, the key thing to understand is that this isn't about restricting yourself or becoming some kind of joyless robot. The whole point is actually incredibly practical. It's about freeing yourself from a really fundamental problem that we all face. And that problem is a little word with a huge meaning, dukkha. Now, you often hear it translated as suffering, but it's so much more than that. It's that background stress, that feeling that things are never quite right. It's the friction of life, the inherent unsatisfactoriness of chasing after things that just can't deliver lasting happiness. So this whole practice of abandonment, it's the method for getting right to the root of all that. In fact, this is laid out right from the very beginning. In one of the most famous discourses, it's stated super clearly. The second of the Four Noble Truths says that there's a cause for all this unsatisfactoriness, and that cause is craving. And then it says that this cause, this origin, is something to be abandoned. Simple as that. The goal is peace, and the way to get there is to let go of what's disturbing it. Now, here's where it gets really fascinating. This isn't just some abstract philosophy. The texts actually give us an incredibly practical toolkit for how to do this stuff. It's less of a theory and more like a user's manual for your own mind. So one important text lays out 7 specific methods for abandoning what it calls asava, which are kind of like these mental pollutants that create suffering. And the cool thing is, it's not a one-size-fits-all deal. It's a whole toolkit because, hey, different problems need different tools. Let's look at a few. So some things you abandon just by seeing them clearly, really understanding them for what they are. For other things, you need restraint. That means guarding your senses, being mindful of what you're taking in so you don't create new problems. Then there's abandoning through using, This means using necessities like food or clothing wisely for their actual purpose, not just for greed or indulgence.
And the toolkit keeps going with some really pragmatic stuff. Some things you abandon by enduring them, just patiently bearing hardships. Other things, you abandon them by avoiding them. Simple, right? If you know something's a danger, just steer clear. Then there's removing. That's for when an unhelpful thought has already popped into your head and you actively get rid of it. And finally, you can abandon something by developing. This is about replacing a negative habit by intentionally growing its positive opposite, like practicing kindness to get rid of ill will.
Okay, so we've talked about what to abandon and how to abandon it. But maybe the most powerful lesson of all comes from this one brilliant metaphor.
So the story goes like this. Imagine a person is traveling and they come to this huge, dangerous river. The side they're on is full of peril, but they can see that the far shore, that's where safety is.
Now, there's no boat, no bridge. So with a ton of effort, this person gathers up whatever they can find, twigs, branches, vines, and they build a raft. And using this raft, they paddle all the way across to the other side. They made it. They're safe.
And here comes the big question. That raft, it was incredibly useful, right? It literally saved their life. So what should they do with it now? I mean, should they think, wow, this raft is amazing, I should carry it on my back for the rest of my journey? Of course not. That would be absurd. The wise thing to do is to pull it ashore and leave it behind. Its purpose is over. And this is where the text draws the parallel. The teaching itself, all these practices and concepts, they're just like that raft.
And that is the ultimate lesson in Pahātabbā. Everything is a tool. Even the most profound ideas, the most effective techniques, they're all meant to be used for a specific purpose. And then, eventually, let go of. You don't even cling to the path that gets you to freedom.
So this ancient teaching leaves us with a really personal question to reflect on. What ideas, what beliefs, maybe even what old version of yourself has already served its purpose? What was the raft that got you to where you are today, but is now just a heavy weight on your back? What raft is it time for you to let go of?